Hello, we have one more tutorial. This is the Scrappy Blue Minnesota Star block, which is the one that looks more like the Minnesota state flag, which is a beautiful flag, or it was a new flag actually. For this block, you will need a 3.5-inch center square. You will need 4 flying geese for your corners. You will need to include these 2-inch square blocks. I am going to show you how to make flying geese. You will need one 4.5-inch square, so 4.5 inches on each side. You will need 4 2.5-inch square of the white. So the 4.5-inch square needs to be blue. The 2.5-inch squares need to be white. This will make the scrappy blue on the outside and the star itself white. And for flying geese, you're going to want to draw a line from corner to corner on your fabric. But if you have a swizzle stick, instead of drawing your line from corner to corner, you're going to line up the line of your swizzle stick from corner to corner. See how there's a line in the middle of the stick? You're going to line that up. And you're going to trace along the side. Otherwise, you're going to line from corner to corner and you're going to draw a straight line from corner to corner. If you're doing the straight line from corner to corner, you're going to put your foot up against this line and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch from each side. If you did the swizzle stick, you'll see that I already have the lines a 1/4 inch from each side, and that's what you're going to sew on. So you're either going to use this as a guide and sew a 1/4 inch from the center line if you don't have a swizzle stick, or you're going to, if you have a swizzle stick, you're going to sew on the swizzle stick lines. Now I've already prepared my other pieces here. I've drew on the back. So here's one and here's the other. So you're going to draw your straight lines on the back of all 4 of your pieces. You're going to line these front side to front side. So the Tula Pink fabric has that little white. You can easily tell which is the front side. Of course, with white and a solid, it doesn't matter so much because the front sides, I mean, it's, you know, both sides are going to be the same because it's a white fabric. So I'm going to line these up and I'm going to sew along this line. And I'm going to sew along this line, and then I will come back. So I have sewn my 2.5-inch pieces onto my 4.5-inch block, and I did them the right sides together, which of course, if you're using a solid for the white, that's not as particular. Now you're going to cut from corner to corner. If you drew the straight line with a straight edge, you can just trim right along that line. You can use a scissor if you want, or you can use a rotary cutter. I like to bring a scissors with me and cut these on road trips if someone else is driving. Otherwise, I just sit at my desk and cut them with a rotary cutter. One thing to keep in mind if you're doing scissors is you still want it to be about a 1/4 inch from where you've done the sewing. Now you're going to want to iron these open, and then you're going to be putting your other 2 charms on. I have now ironed these open. Our flying geese are heading in the correct direction. Of course, again, this was the Tula Pink white on white, so that's why you can kind of see this little bit of a heart or whatever. Go down to the front of your half flying geese here because you want the right sides together. So I am going to sew this onto this side. All right, so I sewed this down to this, and again, you can cut this with a scissors as long as you keep a 1/4 inch. This should be 1/2 inch apart. So as long as you keep a 1/4 inch between corners, I'm just going to use my rotary cutter to slice it in half. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now I'm going to iron these open. All right, so I have ironed these, and now it's time to trim them. This is where it's handy to have a square template. And because we're doing a 6-inch, it's a 6.5 inch, but it'll be finished 6-inch Minnesota Star block. Our centerpiece is 3.5 inch square. So I have this 3.5 inch square template, so it's the same size as our center. If you have one of these, you'll see that in the middle there is a circle right under my finger there. If you line that circle up with this corner here on where these all three fabrics come together, and you line this 45-degree angle here with this 45-degree angle there, it'll show you exactly where to trim. So it's not necessarily being trimmed where you would think of trimming it. And then you're just going to do a straight edge from here to here. And you'll see here, this line here is 1/4 inch. It says 1/4 right there. You want to try to keep a 1/4 edge between this and this. Of course, it looks like I don't have quite enough fabric to do that. So when I'm sewing my block together, I'm going to keep that in mind and probably move this up a little bit from the edge. Anyway, that's just another tip that you don't really need to worry so much about at this point. But here we do have a nice 1/4 inch. So let's do this one more time. I have this 45-degree angle and this 45-degree angle. And then from here to here is a 45-degree angle. I'm going to line my circle up with where the three fabrics come together, my 45-degree angle right there, and I'm going to trim the sides. And now I'm just going to get this little edge trimmed off. I have one side of my block ready to go. I'm going to put it right here. Let me zoom the camera out a little bit. There we go. And because it's scrappy, I did a couple others already. So these ones are ready to go. These will go on each side here. And then I will put these fabrics in like so. I like to chain piece. So as I chain piece, I will sew this corner to the center, this corner to this center, this corner to this center. And then these two will be sewn together and I'll sew them to this one. These two will be sewn together, I'll sew them to this one. These two will be sewn together, I'll sew them to this one. And I will iron. So I sewed these three together. And then when I ironed them, I like to be able to sandwich my blocks together. So I ironed the top flying geese and the bottom flying geese open. So they were ironed out. And then the center, I ironed the flying geese in. So this way, when it comes time to sew them together, my blocks will sandwich. The sew line will come straight together, but this fabric folds this way and this fabric folds that way, creating a nice sandwich, which will make my seams, make my points pointier, and it make my seams nice. Again, practice makes perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect on your first try. Don't beat yourself up if your points are not perfect. Okay, I am done with my scrappy blue star. On the back, I ironed both the top and the bottom towards the center, which made these corners come together nice. I do like the way the corners come together. And I did make some other stars here. So when you put them all together, and let me zoom out here. When you put these all together, it'll have a really nice, scrappy, happy effect. And then the white stars, being that bright white, will just pop, which is going to be really pretty once this quilt is completely done. Well, thank you for watching my video, and I can't wait to see what you make with this pattern.